I'm not a romantic on Indian systems of medicine like my senior colleague, Mr. Oscar Fernandez, or my friend Sudhanshu Trivedi, but I'm a believer in making the Indian system of medicine a much stronger system, anchored in science, research, and most importantly, in written clinical documentation. I am well aware of the glorious traditions that Indian medicine has had, and I think the challenge before us is to make the Indian system of medicine an important element of our healthcare system, based, as I said, Madam, on research. In 2015, a Chinese woman scientist got the Nobel Prize for her work on discovering a cure for malaria from Chinese systems of medicine. And I see no reason why in the next 10 years, an Indian scientist cannot get the Nobel Prize in physiology and medicine for discovering a cure for any of our ailments through the Indian systems of medicine. So I come to this subject with an open mind. I do not come to this subject with a sense of awe or romance as far as the Indian system is concerned, because I think we have to realize, Madam, that science has moved on, research has moved on, experimentation has moved on, and the basis of modern medicine really is clinical documentation, which has been the missing link in the Indian system of medicine. Now, I want to have four very brief comments on the two bills that we are passing. The National Health Policy of 2017 talks of integrative health care. The Kasturirangan Committee on the Draft Education Policy talks about medical pluralism. I myself, when I spoke on the Ayush Ministry a couple of months ago, advocated an integrated system of medical education, not a separate system of medical education, but an integrated system where you have core courses, where you have common foundation courses, and then you have specialization either in modern allopathy or in the Indian system of medicine. Now, unfortunately, instead of integrating, we are now disintegrating. We passed the National Medical Commission bill last year. Today we are passing two bills, one for Ayurveda and Unani and Siddha, and another for homeopathy. And soon, presumably, the minister will come with another bill for a national commission for yoga and naturopathy. Madam, instead of bringing them together, we are pulling them apart. What India needs is an integrated education system for medicine. We need medical colleges giving education for the first 2.5 years in common courses, in common foundation courses, and then students opting to specialize either in Indian systems of medicine or homeopathy or in modern allopathy. So I would request the government to please create a system which will bring all these different institutions together. Maybe now that you have different commissions, you need an apex super commission to bring all these commissions together so that education in medicine is imparted in an integrated manner. You can start in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, you can start in JIPMER, in Puducherry, in the institutions that are under the control of the central government. But I do wish to reiterate that India's healthcare requires integrated medical education, where allopathy, homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani, tribal systems of medicine all get integrated for the first 2.5, 3 years, and then specialization takes place. So I request the Honorable Minister to please give thought to bringing an integrated structure and not these silos that we have created. Second comment I have, Madam Vice Chairman, unfortunately all the great champions of federalism are not here. The Anna DMK is not here, the TRS is not here, the BJD is not here. No, DMK, you are with us. The BJD is not here. All the great champions of federalism are not here. Both these bills are anti-federal. The National Medical Commission bill was anti-federal. And I want to place on record my deep sense of gratitude to the Home Minister when it was pointed out to the Home Minister that the National Medical Commission bill was going to undermine the rights of states. He intervened and convinced the Health Minister that the bill should be amended. And that is how, in the National Medical Commission, out of 33 members, 9 members represent state governments. Madam, in the National Commission for Indian System of Medicine, out of 29 members, only 6 represent the state governments. Homeopathy, out of 20 members, only 5 represent the state governments. Health is a state subject. Medical education is a concurrent subject. You have to give equal responsibility to the states in this area. I'm afraid both the bills that we will soon be passing actually weaken and undermine the states, and I would request the Honorable Minister to pay special attention to bringing a greater sense of participation for the state governments. My third point is on fees. Madam, 2 minutes mein khatam karunga. My third point is on fees. Again, in the National Medical Commission, the Home Minister saw the light of what I was saying when I moved an amendment, and the government accepted the amendment to regulate the fees for at least 50% of the seats in private medical colleges and deemed universities. Both these bills are silent on fees. There is no provision to regulate fees in private colleges. I would urge the Honorable Minister to please give thought to the regulation of fees, which is the biggest problem as far as medical education is concerned in our country. And the fact that there are no provisions in both these bills on the regulation of fees is a serious lacuna in the bills that we will be passing. Finally, as I said at the beginning, Indian systems of medicine require modern systems of research. They require modern systems of science, and most importantly, they require modern systems of written clinical documentation. Under Clause 18 of the National System of Medicine, Indian System of Medicine Bill, Honorable Minister, I would urge you to set up a board for research. You are setting up separate boards. I would urge you to set up a board for research. This would be a great signal that you will be sending to the Indian System of Medicine community that you are valuing research as much as education. This bill deals only with education, but education without research is incomplete. Research without education is meaningless, and therefore we need to integrate education and research, and a very simple way would be to add under Clause 18 of this bill, the Indian System of Medicine Bill, a separate board for research, and bring top-flight people in the modern scientific field to bring modern science into the practice, the theory of Indian systems of medicine. Finally, sir, we have discussed Ayurveda, we have discussed Unani, we have discussed Siddha. My colleague and many others have talked of yoga and naturopathy. I also want to say that we have a very rich tribal system of medicine in our country. Now, one of the problems with the tribal system of medicine is it's been oral. It has to be written. It has to be documented, as I said. And therefore, I would urge the Honorable Minister in his overarching jurisdiction over Indian systems of medicine also to give pride of place to tribal systems of medicine which have been practiced in our country for ages and which are still continuing to be practiced today. Therefore, sir, I welcome the fact that we are bringing these two bills. There are shortfalls, there are lacunae. I would urge the Honorable Minister to have these bills passed, go back and see how the lacunae in these bills can be addressed. And the most important, in my view, is to bring modern science, modern research into Indian systems of medicine. Let us not poo-poo modern science. Let us not assume that we knew everything about modern science 1,000 years ago. Science has moved on. Science keeps moving. Research keeps moving. And ultimately, clinical documentation is what is important. So therefore, sir, with these words, even though I do not belong to my good friend Oscar Fernandez's school of thought, he keeps trying to convince me every time he sees me about the virtues of Gomutra and all other traditional modes of treatment. My ears are open, my mind is open. I have a skeptical approach. I'm agnostic. I'm not atheist in this approach. But as I said, there are people who are romantics. But also, sir, I should point out, there are also many hypocrites. Many people who sing the praises of Indian systems of medicine, but at the first opportunity, when their illness is concerned, would like to go to a modern allopathic doctor. So I'm neither a romantic nor a hypocrite. I'm a realist. I want the Indian system of medicine to be a global player. I want it to be an integral player in the Indian healthcare system. And I think some of the points that I have made, if the Honorable Minister can give it some attention, I would be most grateful. Thank you, sir.
Shri Gopal Narayan Singh.
धन्यवाद।